Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. It's February 25th, 2015, and here's a look at our top stories.
Tonight, the FCC refuses to publicly release the federal government's plan for the internet takeover. Meanwhile, Barack Obama holds a town hall meeting that is closed to the public but open to illegal aliens. And a new poll says that the majority of Americans support military invasions of Iraq and Syria. All that plus more up next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
SOPA, PIPA, CISPA. These are just some of the ways we've seen them try to take our internet away, the government that is. And today is no different. FCC refuses to testify before Congress ahead of internet takeover. FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler is refusing to appear before Congress as the FCC prepares a regulatory internet takeover. Not only that, but Wheeler has also refused to publicly release the FCC's 332-page draft of the internet regulations. So if you or I decided that we just didn't feel like going in front of Congress, there'd be some serious repercussions for that. But if you're the head of the FCC, it's not that big of a deal. And it's one of those, we have to pass it to find out what's in it kind of deals. And we've seen this before, we've seen Nancy Pelosi doing things like this. And we heard Mr. Wheeler, he said something to the effect, we have to keep the internet fair. And I think the internet is pretty fair as it is. I pay my $40 a month for my internet service. I get to use it. I can use Netflix, whatever I want to do, and I'm fine with that. Same deal if you have a phone. You have a data package. You have, $50 worth of content or whatever. Use that up, you get another data package. I'm okay with that as well. But now the government wants to come in and regulate your internet for you. And to hear more about this, let's take a listen to an interview on Larry King.
I think that we at the FCC should be as open and transparent as the internet itself and let the American people see for themselves what it is that we're talking about.
Wait a minute, you can't tell me what's in the document?
That is correct. Stamped on the front is an internal, use-only, non-public moniker. And unless I'm authorized by the chairman to disclose this, I can't let you or any of the other millions of Americans who are interested in the internet economy know what the FCC is going to do.
Why?
Until we vote on February 26th, this document will not be released.
And as I said before, they want to pass it before they can show you what's in it. But you do have guys like that fine gentleman trying to warn you about these things to come from the most transparent administration in American history. I could not say that without laughing. And the transparency seems to know no bounds because now we have Obama having town hall meetings that are closed to the public. And one person was quoted as saying, Obama today flies to Miami to take part in a town hall with a handpicked audience to talk about his immigration policies and imperial actions. The Miami Herald reports that the event, scheduled to take place at the Miami campus of the Florida International University, is not being sponsored by the university and is, in fact, closed to the public for all intents and purposes. And he does this, this is what this president does. To reiterate myself, allow myself to reintroduce myself, because myself and Kit Daniels went and saw Obama or attempted to see Obama when he came here to Austin at the University of Texas, well, I guess technically the LBJ Museum. And, we went through the flaming hoops of razor wire. We had to go submit our packets and all that stuff. And I got my press pass and I said, okay, where is it going to be? Where do I need to go? They said, oh, you cannot go in because you were not hand selected by the Secret Service. I said, excuse me, what are you talking about? I went to the thing, here's my press credentials and all that. You talk to my boss, whatever. They said, yeah, but the Secret Service was choosing who could come in and who can go, and you're not on that list. So, basically they said, instead of going in the actual room with Obama, being able to ask him a question, we have this other room, this monitor room, that's in a completely different building where you can sit there and watch. And I'm not mad at the LBJ Museum. They were just doing what they were told to do. But this is the type of transparency they see. Town hall meetings where you can't go in unless you're handpicked, and also press events that you cannot go in unless the Secret Service selects you for that as well. Poll: majority of Americans support invasion of Syria and Iraq to put down U.S.-trained Islamic State. If a poll put out by Pew Research can be believed, writes Kurt Nimmo, a majority of Americans approve of the ISIS war and a narrow majority want ground troops sent to Iraq and Syria. Due primarily to the ceaseless stream of horrific propaganda, 63% of Americans approve of an airstrike against ISIS positions, while 30% disapprove. And I'll say it like I say pretty much every week because ISIS is consistently in the news. You have Al-Qaeda trained, funded by the United States of America, and places like Iraq, also Syria. These guys break off into splinter groups and form ISIS. Now, people call into the show and they don't quite understand. Are you saying Islamic extremists doesn't exist? Yeah, they most definitely do. I'm saying that we're funding and providing these people weapons to use against our own troops, and then we send our own troops over there to fight them. Just like we do have Mexican drug cartels. They existed long before we started giving them guns with Operation Fast and Furious. But once again, we're funding our own opposition. And when I talk about Muslim extremists, I'm talking about the guys burning down Christian villages and chopping people's heads off if they refuse to convert. I'm not talking about Muslims in general. I always throw that out there as well. And since we're throwing things out there, let's throw out the feminists, because we've seen a lot of feminist things coming out. Now, when I talk about feminism or just women in general, women's rights, I'm concerned about women in Saudi Arabia being labeled terrorists if they want to drive, women being gang raped in places like India, here in the States as well, women getting raped on campus and all that. But a lot of times you're, I guess, third-wave feminists, as Paul Joseph Watson would put it, will turn a blind eye to things like this. Despite routinely targeting men for fostering a rape culture, feminists are definitely silent about the brutal gang rape of a woman in her own home while children were present. The victim was at home with her family in Las Vegas when a gang of thugs reportedly kicked in her door, robbed the family at gunpoint, and proceeded to rape her. And although multiple news outlets carried the story, it received no attention from popular feminist blogs. And one writer put it, feminists don't care about rape victims, and they never have. And this is the thing that kind of concerns me, or I guess more or less confuses me about feminists, because you have the feminists, let's burn the bras and, free the nipples. Then you also have the feminists who are trying to ban the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues. So I'm really not exactly sure if they're all on one accord on that. But I think things like this should definitely be reported, and I'm kind of surprised that they didn't actually do that if they say they are for women's rights, but to each his own. Now let's take things a little colder, a little chillier, if you will, and talk about global warming or lack thereof, because we see the headline, lobster boats frozen in New England harbor. And, this is just another example, because I'm sure you guys saw earlier this year, it came out, I guess, the beginning of January, 2014, hottest year on record, or hottest year in 100 years, whatever the headline was. And they cherry picked a few places, like maybe it was exceptionally hot here, and there, but it was also record cold here, and there. What places were record cold? I'm glad you asked. City of Chicago, it said it was the coldest year in 100 years. The Great Lakes were freezing up onto the landmass. It was so cold. Here in Austin, Texas, the police chief was warning people not to drive because the streets were so slick in the state of Texas. Just a few examples of the many that are going on out there. And recently I was watching a clip from MSNBC, Bill Nye the Science Guy. And I'm not picking a fight with Bill. I loved him as a kid. I watched the show and all that. But he was saying, don't use the phrase global warming because people understand that sometimes it's cold. He says, don't use global warming. Use the blanket term of climate change. So if it's cold one day, that's climate change. If it's hot one day, it's climate change. If it's rainy one day, that's climate change. If it's a drought next day, that's climate change. So any way you slice it, any type of weather variable will fit into our narrative with so much in so many words. And that's the concern I have about this. For people who don't quite grasp this is exactly what's going on. Anything that happens anywhere fits into their narrative. But long before there were SUVs and coal-powered plants and all these other things, there were always droughts, always floods, always hurricanes, always tornadoes. And my point about this, you can think we're kooks or whatever else. You can believe what you want to believe. Understand that people like Al Gore, one of the top global warming cheerleaders, has multiple homes and a $30,000 electricity bill. That was reported last year, a year before. These guys, they show up in their private jets, with their whoever's. Guys show up to these Davos conferences with their 2 nannies and their families talking about you need to live more within your means. Obama goes to Africa and tells Africans in Africa they should not have air conditioning. And I dare you to go Google that. People don't believe it. You have to show it to them. And these are just some of the things that are going on. And the point I was making with that, regardless if you believe it's true, hook, line, and sinker, or you're a little bit skeptical, don't pay any carbon taxes. Say, hey, we can, save the children, polar bears can't swim, whatever else. But when they say it's time for a tax, say, nay, let's find some other way. And sometimes the best way to do things is just to operate your Second Amendment right and protect your friends and your family.
Gillenwater walked into Good Pharmacy Wednesday morning. He had a gun. Ratcliffe reached for his pistol, shot the would-be robber, and then shot again. That second bullet hit Gillenwater's gun. Here's a photo of it. That shot lodged the bullet up into the barrel, making it impossible for Gillenwater to fire off any more shots.
And coming up after this break, we'll have more gun news. Michael Cargill of Central Texas Gun Works is going to join us and discuss the ATF's plans to regulate your ammunition. And also, Alex Jones will be telling us about black sites, the secret sites where your Constitution does not exist. And this isn't some foreign, faraway land. This is right here in the United States of America.
The knowledge of the ancients, tried and true, trusted herbs and extracts fused with the latest nutraceutical science. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend, crafted with over 14 key ancient herbs and extracts to supercharge and prepare your body for what experts admit is the most dangerous season of the year. We have rejected hundreds of other formulations in our quest to bring you what is simply the most powerful and comprehensive proprietary formula that we have ever created in the realm of herbal immunity. For the last 2 years, our team has been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to develop the ultimate nutraceutical formulation. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. For a limited time, get 25% off on this introductory offer. Visit ancientdefense.com or call 888-253-3139. ancientdefense.com. Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients. Extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules, you will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Early in our broadcast, we talked to you about the FCC and their regulations of the internet. We've seen SOPA, PIPA, CISPA. All they do is repackage the tyranny and bring it under a new name. And now we see the ATF go into a different organization, bringing the tyranny down on ammunition. And to talk more about this, how the ATF is trying to reclassify ammunition, we have Michael Cargill of Central Texas Gun Works. All right, thanks for joining us again, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now we talked a little bit about this, but tell me, well, first of all, can you break it down to the lowest common denominator? What is this thing with the ATF?
Okay, well, first of all, we have our different, branches of government. We have our legislative branch, we have our executive branch, and then we have our judicial branch. Mm-hmm. And I find it very funny how the ATF is actually legislating, and I'm not sure what branch they fall under.
Right.
Since they're the department, So that's kind of weird to me. The original intent of this was to actually ban certain types of ammunition for handguns. Mm-hmm. It was never intended for long guns at all. So it's mainly intended for handguns, so they could not penetrate body armor of law enforcement officers. Right. Mm-hmm. Long gun ammunition is for sporting purposes. So it was never intended to go to sporting purposes at all, and was never intended for rifles. So I have a big problem with this, because I like that ammunition. I like it for sporting purposes.
Right. So when they say that they want to change it, do you believe that that's all it is? They're just going to change this one particular thing for the AR-15, the .223 round. It's just going to end there? No,
absolutely not. This is going to start right there, and then it's going to go to other things, and then we're going to have a problem with trying to get ammunition. Because once you start targeting certain types of ammunition, it's going to cause a problem all the way down the pipeline. And so, hey, if they can't get the guns, then let's go after the ammo.
And that's exactly what a lot of people are saying, and I agree with you on that point. Especially with this particular round, the AR-15 round, we've seen, since the recent shootings, all the things going on, so much demonization of the AR-15 rifle itself, even companies like Bushmaster being sued and all that stuff. So now it seems very fishy to me that they would take this particular gun, this particular round, because I don't think they'd do it in the first place. But as you said, once they get in, they change this. Oh, if we feel like we can change that, we can do that as well.
Right. And I try to get people to wake up, stop being sheeple. I was traveling on an airline not too long ago, and I walked through security. And as I was going through security, I had a cup of water with me. And this, the ATF, well, not the ATF, but the TSA agent said, hey, you're going to have to, dump that out. You're going to have to pour that out or throw it away. I said, well, why do I have to throw this away? And they said, well, because it could be an explosive.
Yeah.
I said, okay, so what do you want me to do with it? Oh, just dump it in the trash can right there. Okay.
So I can explode it right there.
Right. We need to stop being sheeple and start questioning things. This needs to stop. The ATF is actually governing, and they should not be. They should not be able to create laws that are where I'm going to be charged with a felony.
Right.
That should be up to Congress. That should be up to our legislative branch, and I hope not the executive branch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing, because you can call into the ATF right now. I believe we have the article. It says contact ATF on changes to regulate armor-piercing ammo. That's the article on guns.com. So people can actually contact the ATF. Now, I noticed that, at least when I looked, they didn't have any type of open forum, like they have done on past things where you can see other people's points of view.
Right.
So I guess you're just supposed to contact them directly, and then they'll say, well, everybody voted that they wanted to change it, so let's go ahead and change it.
No, and they definitely need to get their input put in there. Let the ATF know that, hey, this is not something that should be done. This is for sporting purposes only. The original intent was actually for handguns, not for long guns. So definitely let them know that, and we need to stop, wake up, and get involved.
Right, and it's not just the AR-15. Earlier, or I guess last year, we saw also them come after the AK-47.
Yes, and every time this president or this current administration comes out and they're going to attack or say, hey, we need to do anything with any type of firearms, only thing they do is it causes a big rush.
Mm-hmm.
People run to the gun store and they try to purchase that item as fast as possible. So that's why he's the #1 salesman in the land.
Yeah, he's the #1 gun salesman since his administration. Now, have you seen those spikes in sales when he bans the AKs and all that?
Absolutely. The day that he did that night, every distributor sold out of those firearms. Every single distributor in this country.
Yeah, and we see it, whether it's the ammunition, the magazines, the firearms themselves. Sometimes everybody rushes out and gets those things. It was right after Sandy Hook, where you could not buy a semi-automatic rifle.
Right. So, if they're gonna do this with the, this particular bullet here, then what's gonna happen is, hey, start making it right now, and then rushing it out there, because I guarantee you, as soon as it goes into effect, hey, this is now illegal, then it's gonna sell out.
Right. Now, when we talk about these bullets, these ammunition, for the people who don't know, what is the significance of an armor-piercing bullet to the layman? Break it down.
Well, for this, the armor piercing is supposed to actually, pierce the body armor or whatever, or maybe a vehicle or something like that, or maybe a very strong animal, very strong.
Like a big buck.
Correct, and make sure that it actually gets in there. And that's why I use it, not necessarily for a vehicle or anything like that, but I definitely will use it for a very strong animal, one that's actually pretty far away.
Right, exactly. Okay, now when we talk about things for handguns, would you support people using that type of thing? Would you recommend anybody use armor-piercing bullets for a pistol?
No, not if you're going to use it for personal defense, because you need to make sure, you need to know where that bullet's going to go. You need to know what your threat is and what's behind that threat. If you fire that round, especially a handgun, then that could go a little further than you want it to go. So no, not for a handgun, but definitely for a rifle. I'm going to use it for long distances. That's the purpose of the rifle.
Right.
For a handgun, that's usually, I'm going to have a handgun at home for personal protection and stuff like that. I'm not going to use my AR-15 at home for personal protection. I'll use that while I'm out hunting. Mm-hmm. Trying to get that buck or whatever I'm trying to do, and it's a little further, than I think, then that's what I'm going to use that round for.
And you made a good point there, because, you and I, we both support the Second Amendment. People own whatever gun they want to have. But, sometimes I see these YouTube videos and the guys up there, they got the AKs. They live in a 1-bedroom apartment. And you're like, hey, you breaking my house, and I'm going to shoot you. Like, no, bro, because it's not going to stop here. It's going to go through a wall and possibly into the next.
It's going to go through that wall, your neighbor's wall, and, and everywhere
so,
else.
yeah, that's a good point. You want a pistol. I like a shotgun, birdshot, things such as that nature, especially at that close range.
And, if I'm going to be at home, I'm actually going to want a handgun, because I may need to clear that room.
Okay.
I may need to make sure my house is safe. A handgun, I can do that. A long gun, it's going to be hard for me to go around that curve or go around that corner there with a long gun. But definitely with a handgun, I can defend my house.
Exactly. Okay.
And I use an extended magazine doing that.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I got a shorter barrel legal limit shotgun, but each his own. Each his own. Now, Mike, something we've both been on is open carry here in Texas. We see now Governor Abbott saying that he's going to sign it. Do you believe that?
Yes, I do believe that if it does cross his desk, he will actually sign it. I wish that they would pass constitutional carry, because there's 44 states in the United States that do not have, well, actually 44 states that allow some form of open carry. Texas is one of the few states that you cannot open carry a handgun. So we need to actually get constitutional carry passed in Texas, not just license carry. Because license carry, you got to have a handgun license. You know what? They do not tax the First Amendment. They do not tax the Third. They do not tax the Fourth. They do not tax the Fifth. So why are we taxing the Second Amendment?
Right. And talking more about the just generally carrying the pistol on you, we saw some very controversial comments. We had a summit, so to speak, last week before, and we saw some police chiefs come out and say that, in so many words, that they'd rather have somebody go through counseling than actually carry a gun on campus to protect themselves from a perpetrator. Are you a supporter of the campus carry?
Absolutely. It's about fight or flight, and we need to have faith in people that are trying to protect themselves. Law enforcement officers don't get a chance to practice like they should, and that's why they're not as great shots. But your individuals who are very concerned about their individual safety are going to go out, they're going to practice, going to take that class, make sure they get the right gun, and they're going to make sure they can get that shot off, because it's about saving their life. As a civilian, not as a law enforcement officer who's doing a job, who's checking in from 9 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah, because people see the movies and they think, the law enforcement officer shows up. Number one, they automatically assume the officer's going to know what's going on. Officer shows up, one guy has a knife, the other one has a baseball bat. They don't know who started it, who's in the wrong. So then you have that. And then on top of that, when the officer opens fire, he's not going to hit his target every time. Like they see the movies, they see James Bond take out a little 22 and shoot somebody 50 yards away. It doesn't happen like that in real life. So you, the individual, need to have the ability to protect yourself.
Right.
And I agree with you on that point.
And anyone that speaks out against campus carry, that's someone who wants the ladies to be unarmed so they can actually overpower them and take advantage of them. So anyone that speaks out against that, that's their purpose. And think about this. Campus carry. Right now, you can already have a handgun on a college campus. You just cannot go into the building. You can walk all the way through, for example, University of Texas. You can walk all the way through that campus with a handgun on you, with a concealed handgun license, and and have the gun on you concealed. You cannot go into the building. So we're talking about the prohibition of the building, to be able to carry into the building. And now you have Senator Ellis, one of the state senators here in Texas, saying, hey, it's going to cost $47 million to educate the officers, educate the campus.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And to be able to afford, this bill. And that's malarkey. $47 million. What he's saying is it's going to cost $50,000 per gun for someone to be able to carry inside of a building of a college campus, where it's already legal for you to walk through the campus now.
That's completely ridiculous.
It's
another ridiculous thing. Let me get your comment on this. Not going to say any names, but we saw a police chief saying that he'd rather somebody, if they're going to carry openly, wear some type of identification on the outside of their clothing to identify them as a open carry. Were you privy to this?
No, but you know what? And I'm totally against that, because it's working in other states. It's working everywhere else, the majority of places here, in this country. So why can it not work here in Texas? This is the same type of argument that they brought it back in 1995 to Texas when we got the concealed handgun license program. There's going to be blood in the streets. Officers are not going to know what's going on.
Oh, that's so ridiculous. Because, Mike, just in my home state of Oklahoma, I think, was it 2013, 2012, we passed open carry. And so everybody who says that, everybody's going to do it and there's going to be blood in the streets, there's an entire state debunking that right now. Because I go home, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I rarely, if anybody, see anybody open carrying. It's not some big deal.
Right, because Oklahoma went, they had the same thing, concealed carry, then they did license carry and license open carry, and it's working great for them. It's going to work great for us.
Can't believe it. Now, Mike, our time here is short. So I'm going to ask you, a friend of yours, Cody Wilson, he has the dark wallet. He's doing a lot of the printable gun stuff. I had a chance to speak to him the other day, and now he has the AR-15 processor, the Ghost Gunner. I had a chance to see it at the Texas Capitol. He's saying he's having trouble getting it out through FedEx. He used to be able to ship with them. Now he can't. What are your thoughts on that?
He needs to try a different carrier, and maybe we need to boycott FedEx and not do any business with them, because I don't understand what the problem is. They don't need to know anything about it. Hey, it's a legal item. Their thing is, they said, well, it's not regulated. Well, you know what? Most things are not regulated. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
That's their justification. So they need to go ahead and ship it. There's really no problems whatsoever with that item. Hey, go through USPS or, because he's an FFL. He has a license, so they should be able to ship that item.
Yeah, completely ridiculous. And also, I want to end with this. So we're talking about things that happened, Cody Wilson, Operation Choke Point. We've seen the DOJ, they come after gun shops, banks, saying, hey, don't finance with these guys. Have you experienced this, or have you known anybody who's experienced anything like that? I
have not experienced it, but I know some gun stores actually have, where they actually go after them and actually cut their financing, so they can't either they have a loan, they cut that, cut their financing totally out, so their loan becomes due, or something like that. And this is the administration's work. This has their framework all over it, where they're targeting the money. If you can't go after the guns, you can't go after this. Well, then you know what? Let's follow the money and get that money trail, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, because South by Southwest? I meet all these people. They say, well, you keep saying Obama's trying to ban the guns. Where's the proof? Well, besides the fact he said he was going to do whatever Dianne finds, we can extend this, because I see you got something on your mind there.
Oh, absolutely. You got to follow the trail, because this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's not, people always ask, why do you need to do this and why do we need to do that about our Second Amendment rights? Well, you know what? It's not called a Bill of Needs. It's called the Bill of Rights.
Right. Yeah, because we see Dianne Feinstein, she had all the anti-gun rhetoric, and Obama said he was going to run with whatever she said she was going to do. So he's willing to sit back. So he's hiding behind her for his gun lobby. And then on top of that, we have coming out with the magazines, the ammunition, the firearms. Like any way they can get it, that's what they're going to do.
Right.
And even the printable guns.
Right.
They don't want that technology out there.
Right. So that's why we need to be vigilant, and support our Second Amendment legislators, make sure we're standing behind them and pushing them forward to, catch them as they fall to, hey, keep going what you're doing, because we need to continue to remember, hey, this is the United States of America. This is a land of the free, home of the brave.
Right. Let me ask you about open carry. I've had a chance to meet with the guys. I know you have as well. They get a lot of bad press. Any thoughts on how maybe things could go a little bit smoother for them? What'd be the next logical step?
Well, for a lot of guys, this is the first time they've actually got involved in the political process, so they're not aware that everything they do is going to be criticized. Every turn that you make, every post that you post on Facebook. So I actually got a chance to bring all of them together and sit down and talk with them and say, hey, you need to remember that everything you do online is going to be scrutinized. They're going to look at every single thing. So watch what you do, and let's move forward and get this legislation passed. Right.
All right, Mike. Give us your final thoughts. Just look right there in that camera and tell us anything that's on your mind.
Man, I tell you, definitely get involved in what's happening around this country. Talk with your state senator, talk with your state representative, talk with their U.S. congressman, your U.S. rep, and let them know that, hey, we need to, make sure that this current administration or any other entity do not fringe, step over our Second Amendment rights.
All right, Michael Cargill, Central Texas Gunworks. Thanks for coming by.
Sir, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that's it for this segment. Be sure to stay tuned, because right after this break, Alex Jones is going to be telling you about black sites in the city of Chicago.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system, or call 1-888-253-3139.
For all of recorded history, civilizations around the world praised the health benefits of silver. At InfoWars Life, our mission is to bring you the highest quality, purest, cleanest, effective colloidal silver on the market today for the lowest price available. You don't have to be a doctor to know. The fall and winter months are the most dangerous time of year in North America when it comes to you and your family's health. InfoWarsLife.com is very excited to announce our biggest run yet of Silver Bullet colloidal silver, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, InfoWarsLife.com has taken colloidal silver to the next level using a cutting-edge technique that is free of toxic artificial additives. Now more than ever, it's important to stock up on high-quality Silver Bullet from InfoWarsLife.com and to help others during Christmas by teaching them about the powerful benefits of silver. Secure your Silver Bullet today at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. We're live, ladies and gentlemen. It is the final segment of this worldwide transmission tonight. Great job, Jakari Jackson, earlier. It is really with a heavy heart that I come to you with this next report. Black sites, also known as ghost sites, are inside the United States. I've told you this for a long time. We sent up to Virginia and other areas our reporters, Joe Biggs and others, a few years ago, and they discovered Army training camps that had torture facilities in them, similar to what he had seen in Afghanistan, where he would deliver people to be tortured. And when Joe went public with this, people said, well, how dare you be involved in torture? He was going public, exposing the fact that he would deliver people who were tortured, some of which ended up dead later. It took a lot of courage to do that. But the old alchemist refrain is, as above, so below. If the CIA can get away with black sites, secret torture sites in Poland and Romania and Jordan and Egypt and Germany and other areas like Gitmo and Camp X-Ray, they will end up using it against the general public and the American people. Just as the Patriot Act is used in marijuana offenses and people that don't want to pay carbon taxes. They're using the Patriot Act against farmers that build a barn unauthorized. The power structure wants a totalitarian takeover, and now the London Guardian, the Associated Press, and others are coming out with the shocking headlines. The disappeared Chicago police detain Americans at abuse-laden black site. They take them there sometimes for days. That violates federal and state law. Total civil rights violation. It's kidnapping under law. And they torture them. They shackle them. They tie them down. They beat them. This is all admitted in court. They keep them off the booking databases, sometimes for days. People end up being found dead in the restraint chairs. And the argument is, well, they're battling crime. They're getting the job done. Oh, really? Well, guess who worked in this area? Richard Zuley is tied into this, a detective on Chicago's north side from 1977 to 2007. He got orders directly from Rumsfeld in camps in Iraq where he got confessions. I mean, I can get rolled at the gym on my IT band, and I'm trying to answer questions that aren't being asked. Can you imagine torture 10, 20, 30 times worse than being stretched by your trainer? I mean, literally, I have to battle to tell my trainer once a week when he stretches me and does the rolling, stop. He's got a degree from UT, Pat Riley. Can you imagine stuff 10, 20, 30 times worse? I'm a strong guy. I'm telling you, folks, if it went on much longer, I'd do anything he said to stop. With the sports stretching, we're talking about waterboarding. We're talking about kids getting raped in front of their parents. That came out in General Tagumba's own Army report. Incredible, ladies and gentlemen. And now we learn about the bad lieutenant American police brutality exported from Chicago to Guantanamo from this very area. And now they're back here in America with this big, huge, 7, 8 story building with all of this outlandish stuff going on. Listen, folks, in Europe, in Canada, in the United States, they are building threat fusion centers that are federalization, globalization centers, where they basically federalize your police and train them how to carry all of this garbage out. And that's just the front end of the building. There's another even bigger building down the street. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got a basement, 5-story building full of all of this evil going on inside. I want to talk to the viewers out there. How much more will you put up with? The IRS persecuting veterans, gun owners, Tea Partiers, pro-life groups. and then lowest learner gets a record bonus. The NSA spying on domestic groups. Homeland Security having a summit last week saying Homeland Security is for domestic libertarians and right-wingers, not for radical jihadis. Chicago takes their citizens' guns, the society collapses, there's crime all over the streets, and the answer is torture the criminals till they confess. Now you've discredited the entire police department, the entire judiciary, the entire government. Just like we caught the DEA years ago in what they call parallel construction, spying on people without warrants with the NSA wiretapping systems, and then creating fake investigations later to present to the courts, but it turned out the courts knew and were going along with it. Federal courts have 97% conviction rates. State courts are less than half. That's not a free society when you have 97, 98% conviction rates. It's rigged. The federal government is occupied. It's taken over. It's torturing people. And Chicago cops that were involved in this in Chicago are then sent overseas to carry this out. Not to battle tyranny, but to sell the idea that torture is a good thing, just like Jack Bauer in 24 would do. This is simply unprecedented. And the reason I decided to come on the Nightly News tonight after Jakari finished was it hit me. I was on the air 3 hours today, and I spent 10 minutes on this like it was no big deal because I've developed cognitive dissonance myself. I've been conditioned knowing this, being so close to it. Nietzsche said, you stare into the abyss, you become the abyss. You dance for the devil, you become the devil. I've become so comfortable with this evil that it was no big deal to me. Like the BBC announced they're going to make people get chips to have, jobs in Europe, and I just barely mentioned it. What more is coming if we'll put up with this? It's simply incredible. In fact, I wanted to end this broadcast with the Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote of how we burned in the camps. It's laying on the other broadcast desk in there. Will somebody go grab it? Because this is live, teleprompter-free analysis. And by live, we're taping this tonight. Sometimes it's live, but it's live. I mean, I'm live. I'm not scripting anything. I'm here. And that's why they're running in with the sheet from the room next door. Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote this in Gulag Archipelago that he won the Nobel Prize for that he wrote in the late 1970s. He left the United States because he said we were turning into what he'd fought in Soviet Russia. And he talked about this in Stalingrad. At the time, it was Leningrad, later named to Stalingrad, and how we burned in the camps later thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, they arrested about a third of the city and killed him or tortured him, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family, or if during periods of mass arrest, as for an example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, it was actually about a third, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, pawing with terror at every bang on the doorstep or downstairs door and at every step of the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of a half dozen people with axes, hammers, and pokers, or whatever else they had at hand. The organs of the police state, I would add, would have very quickly suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst for blood, I would add, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. If we would have loved freedom enough, and even more, we would have had no awareness of the real situation. We purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterwards. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Now, we are at that crossroads. All the evil's out. It's all admitted. Free media put down by our founders got the truth out in the face of state-run media. Legions of examples are there. I'm not calling for violence. I was on a international UK broadcast earlier before this TV show, and I was asked, Alex, by a listener, is there ever a time, I was on Richie Allen's show, Irish fella, I was asked, is there ever a time for violence? And the answer is absolutely. Not offensively, but defensively. If we can't win the info war, and they come with forced inoculations we know are deadly, they start rounding people up in mass and people don't come back and dead bodies are found here and there to scare the public, then we don't have a right, we have a duty that defense is an offense in that situation, and you don't wait. Solzhenitsyn wasn't a military strategist. You don't wait at your house for them to come. You go out and you defend the innocents they're going after, and you meet them at a time and place they're not expecting you, just like they come to your house at 5 a.m. That said, most SWAT teams are awake. Police are more awake than any other group except military. They're not our enemies. We need to triple and quadruple and then do it again to the police and military to expose what's happening, because the Defense Department plans, the Emergency Centers Establishment Act, the Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program, the Threat Fusion Centers, this is all a giant globalist foreign bank takeover by the private Federal Reserve. This is it. And this will destroy everybody's future in this country. This is being done to take the pension funds and destroy the country. And it's all out in the open. So our enemies are not the police and military. Our enemies are the foreign globalist collaborators and usurpers that have set this up. So 99% of my work is about winning the intellectual war. There have been hundreds of revolutions in the last 200 years in the world, you can look them up, that weren't called revolutions. Cultural awakenings, velvet revolutions, cultural revolutions, not in the sense of Mao, but in liberty. Better ideas, freedom, people not complying. That's what we need to have now. The enemy wants to have a violent revolution because they can trigger it, they can stage stuff and blame it on us. We don't want to go down that road. But, as Churchill said, there may come a time when fighting an enemy that you don't stand up and you have even though you have a good chance of winning, and then later you don't stand up even though you have a moderate chance of winning, and then finally you got to stand up because it's better to die on your feet than on your knees as a slave. So I say that to all the operatives that watch and track us and attack us and everything. Come on, you know tyranny's here. You can't paint up what you're doing as a good thing. Our government runs a radical Islamicist. They run the narcotics, everything, because it's not our government. It's a criminal consortium, and they know that the collapse is coming and that they've engineered it. And you either join Mordor or you join the forces of good. This is that come to Jesus moment. It's for the rest of eternity. You make the decision. The good news is I'm seeing a lot of good signs across the board that people are really waking up bipartisanly and transcending partisan politics. Great job to the crew. Great job to Jakari. That's it for this original edition of InfoWars Nightly News. Teleprompter-free information, liberty-based with a bias for truth, openly admitting that we try to tell the truth and try to be fearless. Lord willing, I'll see you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, with a syndicated radio broadcast, and back Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central, with InfoWars Nightly News. If you're watching, you are the resistance. In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. And your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.